shouldn't have listened.
My dream was always to get my own place, and I got obsessed with it in the way only a broke college kid can. I was on Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist like it was a part-time job, refreshing listings between classes, between shifts, between anything. When I found a studio that wasn't a scam and wasn't a closet pretending to be an apartment, I jumped on it. The layout matters. The front door opened straight into one big room, bed area on the left, a little living space on the right, and a kitchenette tucked behind a half wall. The bathroom was the only separate room, right by the entrance, and there was one tall storage closet at the very back by the window. That closet was the only place in the whole unit where something could hide. The first few weeks were fine. I'd come home late from my commuter campus, microwave something, watch YouTube on my laptop, pass out. Then, one night, I got home around 12:40 a.m. after a late shift and noticed my deadbolt wasn't thrown. I know because I always turned it until it clicked twice. I assumed I'd been careless and told myself not to be dramatic. The part that still bothers me is how quickly my brain tried to make it normal. A few nights later, I woke up thirsty around 3 a.m. and heard a soft click near the front door. It wasn't loud. It was the kind of sound you'd miss if you were fully awake. I sat up in bed and stared at the dark shape of the bathroom door and the little strip of hallway by the entrance. Nothing moved. I told myself it was the radiator or the building settling. Then I heard it again, followed by the tiniest scrape, like metal kissing metal. I didn't get up. I grabbed my phone, not to call anyone, just to have the light. When I finally turned the flashlight on, the first thing I saw was the chain lock hanging loose. I never used the chain lock. It was stiff and annoying. And yet, there it was, dangling like someone had unhooked it and let it drop. I remember whispering, "What?" like that was going to help. I crept toward the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway light outside was on, but the peephole was wrong. It looked cloudy, like someone had smeared it. I rubbed it with my thumb and my stomach dropped because the glass moved. It wasn't fixed. The peephole lens was loose. That's when I backed up fast and locked myself in the bathroom, because it was the only room with a real lock. I sat on the closed toilet lid, holding my phone like it was something useful, listening. A minute passed. 2. Then I heard the most casual sound imaginable. The faint squeak of the storage closet door at the back of the unit. I didn't want to believe it, so I did what people do. I waited for some other sound that would make it make sense. Footsteps, breathing, anything. But the apartment went dead quiet in a way that felt staged. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to call the building's after-hours number. The super didn't answer. I almost laughed because, of course, he didn't. So I stayed in the bathroom until morning, pretending that was a normal thing to do. At 7:15 a.m., I opened the bathroom door, and the closet at the back of the unit was open by maybe 2 inches. I know it was closed when I went to bed. I used it for boxes and my winter coat. It didn't drift open on its own. The hard proof came later when I checked the front door in daylight. The peephole lens was missing entirely, like someone had unscrewed it and taken it. And on the inside of the door, the deadbolt plate had fresh gouges around it, little crescent scratches like someone had been working a tool in there. I moved out when my lease ended and told everyone it was because I wanted a bigger place. I never told anyone the real reason because it sounds paranoid. But I still think about how quiet it was and how someone could have been watching through that peephole from the hallway whenever they wanted. And I still don't know if they ever actually came in or if the point was just to show me they could. I drive for Uber and Uber Eats on weekends, mostly because it's quick money and I don't have to pretend I'm passionate about it. I know which neighborhoods surge after midnight, which bars spill out loud people at 1:45 a.m., and which drop-offs are going to tip me in the app and which aren't. This happened on a Saturday around 2:20 a.m. I'd just dropped off a group of college kids and was about to log off when a delivery popped up. It was one bag from a late-night diner, nothing fancy, and the drop-off address was in a light industrial area on the edge of town. The pay was weirdly high for a short delivery, which should have been the first clue. The layout matters too, even though it was outside. The diner sat on a corner with two big windows and a single parking lot light that flickered. The drop-off location was a row of warehouses with one access road and no streetlights, just the occasional security floodlight on a motion sensor. When I pulled up to the diner, the bag was already sealed and sitting on the counter with my name on a sticker. I grabbed it, nodded at the tired cashier, and left. The weird part was the sticker. It didn't have the customer's name on it. It just said, "Leave at door," and then my first name in all caps, like someone had typed it manually. I told myself it was a formatting glitch. I got to the warehouse address and slowed down because the place was dead. No cars, no other lights. The building numbers were there, but the unit I needed was at the far end, past a fenced loading dock. As I rolled forward, one of the motion lights snapped on and threw this harsh white rectangle across the pavement. It made my headlights feel pointless. I parked by the door the app pointed to, except it wasn't really a door. It was a metal personnel door set into a roll-up bay, and there was no handle on the outside, just a keypad. I got out anyway because I was already there, and set the bag on the ground like it told me. Then my phone buzzed with a message through the app. Don't look back. I actually laughed out loud, just from nerves, like, okay, edgy. Then I realized something and my mouth went dry. That message wasn't from the customer profile. It came through as a system-style note, the same way the app sends customer updated instructions. The part that still makes my skin tighten is how fast the area went silent, like even the distant highway noise disappeared. I did look back. I couldn't not. And I saw a second light on in the warehouse, inside, behind a high window near the roofline. It wasn't bright like office lighting. It was a small, moving beam, like a flashlight being waved lazily. I got back into my car and locked the doors. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, watching that beam drift across the window, and then the keypad by the door started beeping. Not frantic, slow. Like someone was entering a code, messing up, trying again. My phone buzzed again. Leave it. Drive. So I drove. I didn't peel out. I just pulled away like I hadn't seen anything because I didn't want to be the kind of person who turns a weird situation into a worse one. The hard proof showed up the next morning when I checked my earnings screen. That delivery was marked completed, but the customer name field was blank. No initials, no icon, just empty. I've never seen that before or since. And when I went into the trip details, the drop-off address had changed. It wasn't the warehouse row anymore. It was a residential house across town. I reported it through the app and got a generic response about investigating unusual activity. Sometimes I think it was a scam meant to lure drivers to a specific spot. Sometimes I think it was just someone messing with people for fun. But every once in a while I'll be driving past that industrial area at night, and I'll catch a motion light turning on in the distance when there's clearly no one there. And I wonder if that bag was ever for food at all, or if the whole point was to see who would follow instructions. I worked overnights at a fast food place during a rough stretch after graduation. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid my share of rent, and the late shift made the world feel smaller. After midnight, you see the same kinds of cars, the same kinds of people, and you start recognizing patterns you didn't know existed. The layout was simple. One drive-through lane that curved around the building. First window for payment, second window for food. The kitchen was behind me, bright and loud. The lobby was locked at night, and the only thing between me and the parking lot was glass. It started with an online order, a big one, enough food for 2 or 3 people, paid ahead with a pickup time set for 1:10 a.m. The order name was Alex. Not my name, but it made me look twice because it was in all caps, like it was trying to be noticed. No one came. We held it for 20 minutes and then tossed it. That's normal. People pass out, people forget, people do dumb stuff. Then it happened. Again, 2 nights later. Same order, same pickup time, same name, paid, no show. By the 3rd time, my manager told me, half joking, "Someone's buying food for the trash." We started waiting for it like a weird little ritual. I'd watch the clock, see the ticket print, make the order, and then stand there listening for a car that never came. The part that still creeps me out is the night it changed. It was around 1:12 a.m. when the online order printed, and I was alone up front while the cook cleaned the grill. I looked at the receipt and froze. The order name wasn't Alex anymore. It was my last name. My last name is not on my shirt. It's not on the receipts customers get. It's not posted anywhere out front. I did the only thing I could think of and checked the security monitor we kept under the register. It showed the drive-through lane, the parking lot, and the back door. The lot looked empty except for one car parked in the darkest corner, far enough back that the overhead lights barely hit it. It hadn't been there earlier. I stared at it for a full minute, trying to decide if it was even occupied. Then the screen glitched. Not a dramatic outage, just a quick flicker, and when it came back, the car's headlights were on. Not aimed toward the building, aimed sideways, like the driver was pointed toward the side wall, not the windows. I told myself they were just waiting. Then the drive-through speaker chimed, not because someone spoke, but because it got triggered, like a car had rolled up to it. I turned my head toward the speaker window out of habit, and there was nothing there. No car, no movement. The speaker chimed again, and this time I heard breathing. Not loud, just close enough to be unmistakable. I said, "Hello?" like an idiot, and the breathing stopped. I didn't wait for it to get worse. I called my manager, who lived 10 minutes away, and he told me to lock the payment window and stop taking orders until he got there. While I was on the phone, the parked car in the corner of the lot turned its headlights off. Then it was gone. I didn't see it pull out. It just wasn't there anymore. The hard proof came from something stupid, the receipt reprint log. When my manager arrived, he pulled up the order details in the system. The order wasn't placed through our normal app. It came through a third-party channel we didn't even use anymore, one that shouldn't have been active. And the email attached to the order was literally just a string of numbers, like someone made it to be untraceable. We shut the whole thing down for the night, and my manager reported it to corporate. Nothing came of it. No explanation, no follow-up. I quit a month later for a different job and told myself I was being dramatic. But I still think about how easy it was for someone to get my last name and aim an empty order straight at me, over and over, like they were training me to look at the clock and wait. And I still don't know why they wanted me focused on that speaker window. My family's lived in the same suburban house for most of my life, the kind of neighborhood where people wave when they mow their lawns, and the loudest thing at night is a sprinkler turning on. We had a 3-story setup, basement, main floor, then bedrooms on the 2nd floor, and my dad's office on the 3rd. Only 2 windows faced the street from up high. mine and his. The first weird thing happened when I was young enough to not take it seriously. My dad would mention cars creeping down the street late at night, stopping for too long, leaving before sunrise. He said it like an annoyance, like teenagers messing around. We laughed about it and moved on. Years later, it started happening to me. I'd be in my room late, headphones on, laptop open, and I'd catch a slow sweep of light across my ceiling, like someone's flashlight beam had crossed my window. I'd duck instinctively and then feel stupid 5 seconds later. I told myself it was a neighbor checking their mailbox or a car turning around. The part that still sits in my throat is how careful it was. Not frantic, not random, slow. Then my dad hired a crew to clean up the bushes along the side fence one summer, and the guy doing the trimming found something wedged deep inside the hedge, small, black, about the size of a car key fob. It was a camera. Dead battery. No memory card. No obvious brand. My dad got angry in this very quiet way, which is how you know he's actually scared. He called the police. They shrugged. We installed more lights. Life continued because that's what you do when you can't prove a threat. A year later, new neighbors moved in next door. Not a family, just a couple. They were polite in that fake, careful way. And at odd hours, really early mornings, really late nights, I'd sometimes see them standing at their top floor window, looking across at our backyard like they were waiting for something. One night, walking my dog, I saw them sitting at their kitchen table with a third person. The guy's face stuck in my brain because it was so specific. Bald head, thick eyebrows, broad shoulders. He didn't look like someone you forget. A few years passed. Then last spring, my family took a trip overseas. Not Paris, but a different big tourist city. Same idea. We were in a bar near the hotel, loud and crowded, the kind of place where you can disappear into the noise. I looked across the room and saw him. The same guy. I stared too long and he noticed. We locked eyes and I felt this cold certainty, like a trap snapping shut. He stood up without finishing his drink and walked out. I followed and couldn't find him. The hard proof came 2 days later. We were in a busy square taking pictures and I saw him again across the street with a professional camera. He wasn't aiming at landmarks. He was aiming at us. I watched him lift the camera, adjust the lens, and take a photo. Then he turned and walked away like it was nothing. I told my parents. My dad didn't dismiss it. He went pale and suggested we change hotels. We did. We cut activities short. We acted like people who'd suddenly realized they weren't alone. When we got home, my dad checked our security footage. Nothing. No bald guy, no strange cars, no obvious answer. Sometimes I tell myself it's coincidence piled on coincidence and my brain doing the connecting. But I still have that overseas photo in my mind, how comfortable he looked taking it. And I keep coming back to one question that I can't make feel normal. If he followed us across an ocean, how long had he been watching us before we ever noticed? I hike a lot, and I'm the annoying person who actually likes doing it alone because it clears my head. I live close enough to a big forested trail system that I can drive there in 10 minutes, and I've walked those paths so many times I could probably do sections blindfolded. This happened on a night hike I didn't plan well. It was around 8:30 p.m., colder than I expected, and there was a fog hanging low that swallowed the trail after about 20 feet. The kind of fog where your flashlight makes everything worse because it bounces back at you. So you end up relying on the faint gray outline of the path. The layout matters even out there. There's a main trail that runs like a spine, and then a ridge line to the left that parallels it for a long stretch, but it sits higher, steep enough that there aren't official access points. You can see it in daylight. At night, it's just a darker band of nothing. About 40 minutes in, I smelled perfume. I know how stupid that is. Sounds. Not pine, not wet leaves, not campfire smoke. Perfume. Floral and clean, like someone had just walked past you in a store. It was gone by the time I stopped. 10 minutes later, I smelled campfire. That made sense. People do dumb stuff, camp where they shouldn't, leave coals, but it disappeared too fast. Like it was there to get my attention, not because it was actually coming from a steady fire. Then I saw a flashlight beam up on the ridge. It flicked on, swept a short arc, and clicked off. Then it came on again somewhere else, like someone was moving along the ridge line in jumps. The part that still makes my chest tighten is how quiet the rest of the forest was. No bugs, no distant road noise, just my footsteps and my breathing. I turned my music off and listened. I heard whistling. Not a tune, just a single note held for a second, then another note, spaced out like someone testing how far sound traveled. I told myself it was another hiker, a ranger, anyone reasonable. I kept going because there's a small overlook up ahead that's basically a flat rock platform, and I wanted to reach it so I could turn around without feeling like I panicked over nothing. When I got there, I saw something sitting on the flat rock near the edge. A small stack of stones, arranged carefully, with a twig laid across the top like a marker. It wasn't spooky. It was deliberate. Someone had been there recently, long enough to build it, and they wanted it seen. I turned around immediately. On the way back, I heard footsteps behind me, fast, closing. Not an animal, too rhythmic, too heavy. I stopped because I didn't know what else to do, and the footsteps stopped at the exact same time, like a mirror. I stood there staring into fog that refused to show me anything. My brain tried to bargain. Maybe they stopped because they realized I'd turned. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe they were about to say hello. Then I heard the softest sound to my left, like someone shifting weight on wet leaves, and I finally understood how exposed I was. I started walking again because standing still felt worse. Every few minutes I'd hear a single extra step behind mine, like someone matching me but staying just out of range. The hard proof came when I reached a trail sign near the parking lot, where the fog thinned just enough to see the ground. There were fresh footprints behind me, deep, crisp impressions in the damp dirt, and they stopped about 15 feet short of where I was standing. Like whoever it was had walked right up behind me and then decided to freeze there. I drove home with the heater blasting and my hands shaking on the wheel. I went back in daylight a week later because part of me needed to make it make sense. The overlooked stone stack was gone. The trail looked normal. No footprints, no clue. But I still think about the way those prints stopped. Like a line was drawn I wasn't allowed to cross. And I still wonder if the point was to scare me away from something or to see how close they could get before I broke. I worked nights at a 24-hour gym for a while, mostly because it was easy work and the hours fit my life. After midnight, it's usually dead. A couple regulars, a few insomniacs, and then long stretches where it's just you, the hum of the lights, and the cameras. The layout was straightforward. Front desk and office up front, cardio machines to the right, weights to the left, locker rooms in the back, and an employee hallway that led to a side exit. That hallway was important because it wasn't supposed to be accessible without a staff key. One night, around 2:10 a.m., I noticed a new guy on a treadmill in the far corner. That's not weird by itself, new members happen. What caught my attention was how still his upper body was. He was running at a decent pace, but his posture looked wrong, rigid, like he wasn't reacting to the effort at all. I pulled up the machine status in the system, mostly out of curiosity. It showed he'd been running continuously for 27 minutes. The speed wasn't insane, but it was steady. No pauses, no dips, just this unbroken line. The part that made my stomach tighten was that he wasn't wearing a membership wristband. Our overnight access required it. People forget sometimes, but the system usually flags it. So I rewound the entry camera footage. I expected to see him come through the front door, scan in, walk past the desk. Except he never did. There was no clip of him entering. Not in the last hour. Not in the last 2. I told myself the camera missed him, glitched, recorded over, something boring. Then the treadmill status refreshed and his name field populated. Not a member name, not guest. It displayed my employee ID number. I stared at it, waiting for it to snap back to normal. It didn't. I walked out onto the floor and kept my tone polite because that's how you approach someone when you don't want a situation. I said, "Hey, you're good, but I need you to check in at the front when you come in overnight." He didn't look at me. He didn't even blink in a normal way. He kept running, staring straight ahead at nothing. I said it again a little louder, and he finally spoke without turning his head. He said, "Are you there?" Like he was testing audio. I felt stupid standing there, so I stepped closer and pointed toward the desk. He said it again. "Are you there?" Then the treadmill screen flashed for a split second and showed a distance number that made no sense. Something like he'd run miles and miles in under half an hour. I don't remember the exact number because my brain was busy doing the math and rejecting it. I backed away and returned to the office, telling myself I'd call my manager and get guidance. Before I even dialed, I glanced at the cameras. He was staring directly into the nearest ceiling camera now, still running, mouth open slightly like he was listening for something. That's when I got the cold feeling that he knew exactly where I was, even when I wasn't in the room with him. I locked the office door. 5 seconds later, the handle moved. Not a violent rattle, a slow test, like someone seeing if it was truly locked. Then, from the other side of the door, in the calmest voice imaginable, he said, "Are you there?" The hard proof came later, when police showed up and I made them check the system logs. The treadmill session was registered under my employee ID, but it started before I even clocked in. And the entry log showed a keycard scan at the staff-only side exit at 1:58 a.m. My ID again, while I was on camera at the front desk. No one could explain how that happened. The officers looked at me like I was wasting their time. My manager suggested the software had some kind of bug. I quit the next day. Not because of one guy running at night, because the building behaved like someone could wear my identity like a coat and walk wherever they wanted. And the one thing I can't stop thinking about is this. If he never entered through the front and my ID let him in through the staff exit, who was waiting outside that door in the first place?